call what they call the Heart of the Chronicles. Well, the Heart of the Chronicles to the Elvins in this book, and they have heavenly divested gifts. So their way of worship is to the High One, His light, and His Spirit. And that's the way the book is dedicated. It's the Elven way of saying God, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit. So when Nicholas gets out of this valley, and he's in the world of men in medieval times, he's going to encounter ancient churches that we would call ancient 1,000 years ago. And he's going to see and start realizing that men worship in a parallel to what I've been taught. So he's going to cross over and realize the world of men and what it is. So slowly, piece by piece, he's going to end up becoming the saint at the end of the book.
Yeah, and you brought in the modern times woman, because most women now in our age group now are intellectually. I mean, we love chemistry, math.
That's right.
That was my favorite subject
But you're still
in school.
beautiful. You're still beautiful.
And actually I didn't like literature, but I'm going to read this book.
It's
And I actually may read it to my children.
It's the kind of
it
book
may be really good to read, sit and read.
that if a person, it's a family tale. It's a solid 16-year work, but it's a family tale, and I built it that way, not only to tell the tale and bring the people down to where they're real people,
Right.
and they're moved by divine unction and divine spirit into what they do and how they act and what happens to them. And they try to avoid trouble. They really do. But sometimes, eventually, you might have to face that enemy and deal with that enemy. And it's an overcoming in the sense that they have many, many obstacles in this book that they encounter, things that have to happen in order for them to take the next step. Of course, you're going to have the Christmas traditions that are very subtly interlaced in these medieval tales. I don't come out and do a chapter on holly wreaths. I won't do that. I won't do that. But if I tell you something else, and it happens that this interlaced into it, then as you as a reader are going to say, oh, that's where that comes from. But I don't just come out and tell you that. But if you're thinking, it does have the sleigh in here. I mean, you can see it on the front of the book. It is in the midst of the grasp of this enemy. He's trying to steal these things, and they're eons old. These are not something that's just like been built yesterday.
Right.
I'll tell you some of the history, but I've left enough that
I'm intrigued.
I'm definitely going to read this book.
I've left enough that if I go back in time, that I may write a prequel someday. So it depends on how well we go with the world with this book. And
Let me ask you a question. If a movie were to be about this book, who would you have playing the characters? If you could choose the characters.
You really need to pose that question.
Donna and Cathy.
Oh, well, you're going to have to be a brunette.
Well, let's see.
But it would have to be someone probably that would be in that age group, because they are. It is focused on the 24 years old. I do picture him now when he gets the first red suit. I picture, now I'm going back in time now to the 1960s, back when I was a teenager. I had a Nehru jacket, and those people that remember Nehru jackets, they had a little stand-up collar that came around.
Okay, I remember
had little
those.
brocade buttons, and it was form-fitting. It wouldn't work on me now, but it was form-fitting, down so far, and then it sort of came out a little bit, right at your waist. I picture that with a brocade, like an all white, on white, brocade type stuff. I picture a burgundy, dark burgundy suit, similar to that, very form-fitting to this young man.
So was he slender built back then?
Oh yeah, he'll be a 24-year-old, slender built, strong, very virile type young man, kind of guy you girls would like. And there are some other characters in here like Lord Songer. Now he has the typical Viking look of the blonde hair with maybe a braid on each side, and he's going to be like something that stepped out of a muscle magazine. I mean, he's going to be like an Adonis in description. And I describe these characters very, very detailed in this book. I even put an appendix in the back that puts a synopsis description of each character in narrative. There's 10 black and white author sketches in here so that you could share it with a child and say, okay, this is King Kronor of Sweden. The real places that you'll go to, some examples that you actually could visit in real life would be like Uppsala in Sweden, which is the place of the Viking kings, where they actually buried the Viking chieftains with their ships. And it's at a time that the markers, the ancient markers of stone, have hybrid Scandinavian, pagan, Norse symbology and Christian incoming. So it's like a hybrid on the same stone. And I used real things like that in the book. If you went to see the Falls of the Seven Sisters in Norway, it really exists. You could do that. Of course, you can go to Ball Rock.
Yeah, well, but that would be really great, because you can read this to your children. Maybe a good New Year's resolution, right? To start more family time.
That's it.
Yeah, turn the
Yeah.
TV off at night.
Then take them to Bald Rock.
There you go. And you say the author
Knock a little
spent a lot of his
falls.
time right here sitting on this rock, dreaming,
Right,
dreaming of
yeah.
something. And the Odom Trail is mentioned. I mentioned an Odom people, O-D-U-M. The Scout Trail is called Odom Trail. I called some of the people in here the ancient Odom people of the Everglades.